Blood painted the snow in crimson streaks behind the German shepherd as he dragged himself through the Montana blizzard. His shoulder burned where the bullet had torn through muscle and bone. Each step sent lightning through his body. But he pushed forward. He had to reach the cabin, had to find John Mitchell. The wind howled like a living thing, but Max's amber eyes stayed locked on the distant structure, barely visible through the white curtain. His legs buckled, got up, buckled again. The mission wasn't finished. 2 miles away, John Mitchell jolted awake from another nightmare, his screams echoing in the empty cabin. Sweat soaked his sheets despite the freezing air. The same dream, always the same. His unit dying, his son's face, his wife's last breath. He didn't know that in minutes everything would change. That death was limping toward his door, and with it, the truth. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments, along with the city you're watching. From now, let's continue with the story. John Mitchell was 55 years old, but his mirror reflected a man 20 years older. Silver hair, weathered skin mapped with scars, eyes that had seen too much. The scar on his left temple marked where shrapnel had kissed him in Afghanistan, back when he still believed in missions and purpose. 25 years he'd given the Army. Master Sergeant Mitchell, they'd called him, decorated, respected, a leader of men. That life felt like someone else's story now. The cabin sat 50 miles from Whitefish, Montana, deep in the Rocky Mountains where civilization forgot to follow. 3 years he'd been here. 3 years since the world took everything and left him breathing. Every morning started the same. Wake at 4 from nightmares, the IED explosion, bodies of his unit scattered like broken dolls, the smell of burning flesh that never quite left his nostrils. He'd set the table for 2 out of habit, Sarah's chair staying empty. Sometimes he'd talk to her photo on the mantel, apologize for things he couldn't name. His son David stared at him from another frame, 28 years old in that picture, wearing his dress uniform. The Army declared him killed in action 2 years ago in Afghanistan. John kept the folded flag in a drawer, couldn't bear to look at it. The VA sent $1,200 monthly, disability for the PTSD they diagnosed but couldn't cure. His prescription bottles lined the bathroom shelf like soldiers. The heart medication cost $400 monthly. 3 pills left, no refill money. His chest had been hurting more lately, a squeeze that promised something final. The bank's foreclosure notice yellowed on his kitchen table. $8,000 in back property taxes. Last month, he'd sold his wedding ring for firewood money. The jeweler had looked at him with pity. John hated pity more than cold. His daily routine was survival dressed as living. Chop wood, feed the fire, eat 1 can of beans, watch the sun set over peaks that didn't care if he lived or died. Some nights he'd take out his shotgun, clean it slowly, feel its weight. 6 bullets left. He only needed 1. Old habits die hard, his father used to say. John set 2 plates, talked to ghosts. Survived because stopping took effort, too. He hadn't spoken to another human in 6 months. Hadn't wanted to. What was there to say that he'd failed everyone who'd ever trusted him? That he was waiting for winter to make the decision his cowardice wouldn't. The expired food in his cabinet told its own story. The empty spaces where furniture used to be, sold piece by piece. The silence that pressed against his skull like thumbs. He didn't know that morning was different. Didn't know a German shepherd was collapsing in a cabin 2 miles away, carrying secrets that would tear his carefully constructed numbness apart. Sometimes salvation comes on 4 legs. Bleeding in the snow, the axe split wood with a satisfying crack. John worked mechanically, his breath clouding in the December air. Christmas Eve morning, another day that meant nothing. The pile of firewood grew steadily. Physical labor kept the thoughts away. A raven circled overhead, cawing harsh and insistent. John paused, wiping sweat despite the cold. The bird kept circling over Miller's old place, the abandoned hunter's cabin about a quarter-mile through the trees. Ravens meant death in Montana. Everyone knew that. Let sleeping dogs lie. His mother used to say, "Mind your business, and it'll mind you." But the raven kept circling. John set down the axe, grabbed his shotgun from inside. Old instincts never died, just went quiet. He trudged through knee-deep snow toward Miller's cabin, following the raven's path. The cabin door hung open. Wrong. Miller had been dead 10 years. But John had checked the place last spring. Door had been locked tight. Then he saw the blood, dark red against white snow, leading to the doorway like an invitation to hell. John's heart hammered. His hands started shaking, flashback rising blood and sand. His sergeant's legs gone, screaming that never stopped. He forced himself to breathe. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Combat medic training from another lifetime. He pushed the door wider with his boot. The German shepherd lay in the corner, barely breathing, massive dog, 85 pounds easy, black and tan coat matted with blood and ice. Its amber eyes opened slightly. Tracking John's movement, a growl rumbled deep in its chest, weak but present. John's PTSD slammed into him full force. Another wounded body, another person he'd failed to save. The dog's eyes looked too human, too aware, like his soldiers had looked when they knew they were dying. "Easy now," John heard himself say. His voice shook. "I'm not going to hurt you." The dog's growl faded to a whimper. Its front left shoulder showed the wound, bullet hole through and through. Infection had set in, flesh angry and swollen. Fever radiated from its body, even from feet away. John knelt slowly. The dog tried to lift its head, couldn't, just watched him with those gold eyes that held something like pleading. "You're a fighter, aren't you?" John's hands moved before his brain caught up. 25 years of combat medicine took over. He shrugged off his coat, pressed it against the wound. The dog flinched, but didn't bite. He saw the tattoo inside the dog's ear. Military K Unit 47B. John's blood went cold. 47th Infantry, his old unit number. The unit that died in Afghanistan, the unit that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. "What the hell are you doing all the way out here, soldier?" The dog's tail twitched, just barely. Like it understood. John worked fast, used the last of his antibiotic cream from the cabin's first aid kit, the cream he'd been saving for himself, tore strips from his shirt for bandages, made a splint from cabin wood. The dog let him work, only whimpering when pain got too bad. "You're gonna make it," John said. Surprised he meant it. "Not on my watch, you're not dying." When he finished, the dog did something that broke through 3 years of John's carefully maintained numbness. It lifted its head just enough to lick his hand, one slow, deliberate lick. First touch from a living creature in 6 months. John's eyes burned, his chest hitched. He pressed his forehead against the dog's neck and let himself cry for the first time since Sarah's funeral. "Okay," he whispered. "Okay. We'll get you home." He lifted the 85-pound dog in his arms, grunting with effort, started the trek back to his cabin. The dog's breathing was shallow but steady against his chest. That's when he heard it. The distinct whoop, whoop, whoop of helicopter blades. John froze. Through the trees, he spotted it. Military markings, searchlights sweeping the forest in broad daylight. The dog tensed in his arms, a low growl building. They were hunting. This dog had to be. Military didn't do Christmas Eve search and rescue operations in Montana wilderness for no reason. John's instincts screamed. He scrambled sideways into a ravine, pressing himself and the dog against the frozen embankment. Snow and branches covered them. The helicopter passed overhead, close enough he could see the door gunner scanning the ground. The dog trembled against him, not from cold, from fear. "Not on my watch," John repeated quietly. "Whatever you did, whatever you know, they're not getting you." The helicopter circled once more, then moved south. John waited 10 minutes before moving, carried the dog the rest of the way to his cabin, looking over his shoulder every few steps. Inside, he settled the dog by the fireplace. It refused the beans he offered, too scared to eat. Just kept its eyes on the door, ears swiveling at every sound. John recognized that hypervigilance. He'd seen it in mirrors for 3 years. "Yeah," he said softly, "I know exactly how you feel." That night, John slept on the floor next to the dog, and for the first time in years, the nightmares stayed away. Morning light crept through the cabin window. John woke to find the German shepherd standing over him, not threatening, but protective, like a soldier on watch. "Good morning to you, too," John murmured. His back screamed from sleeping on the floor, but something in his chest felt lighter, purpose. He hadn't felt that in years. The dog's fever had broken overnight. It drank water eagerly when John offered it, even ate a few bites of canned chicken. The wound looked better, still bad, but survivable. "Need to call you something," John said. The dog's ears perked up. "How about Max? You look like a Max." The dog's tail wagged once, decided then. John noticed Max kept shifting position, guarding something. The tactical vest he wore had a pocket on the left side. Every time John moved toward it, Max's hackles rose, a low growl. "Easy, boy. I'm not going to take anything." But curiosity ate at him. What was in that pocket worth guarding? It took hours. John moved slowly, speaking softly, offering food, building trust the way you'd approach a landmine. Patient, careful. One wrong move and everything blows up. By noon, Max allowed John close enough to touch the vest, the zipper stuck from ice and blood. John worked it carefully, and Max watched with intelligent amber eyes that missed nothing. Inside the waterproof pouch, a USB drive, military grade, wrapped in plastic with a tag attached. John's hands shook as he read the tag. For John Mitchell, 47th Infantry, trust no one. The cabin tilted. 47th Infantry, his unit, the unit that died in an IED attack in Afghanistan 12 years ago. The unit that shouldn't exist anymore except in casualty reports and his nightmares. "Who sent you?" John's voice cracked. "Who knows I'm here?" Max whined at the urgency in his tone. John said the only name that mattered, "David. Do you know David?" Max's reaction was immediate, ears forward, body alert. A soft whine that sounded almost like recognition. John's heart stopped. "David Mitchell, my son, you know him." Max pawed at John's leg, then at the USB drive. "He sent you." It wasn't a question. John's hands trembled so badly he could barely hold the drive. "My son sent you to find me." But David was dead, killed in action 2 years ago. John had the flag, the condolence letter, the grave he'd never visited because he couldn't bear it. Unless... John scrambled for his ancient laptop, 10 years old, bought when Sarah was still alive. Took 5 minutes to boot up. He plugged in the USB. Error encrypted file. Military. Grade security. Damn it! John tried everything he knew. Nothing worked. This needed professional equipment. Someone who understood military encryption. Town. He'd have to go to Whitefish. 50 miles through winter roads in a truck that barely ran. The radio on his shelf crackled to life with the weather report. Blizzard warning for northwestern Montana. Category 4 storm expected to hit within 24 hours. Worst storm in 50 years. All residents advised to shelter in place. John looked at Max. "We've got maybe 18 hours before the roads are impassable." A knock on the door froze them both. John's hand found his shotgun. Nobody came out here. Nobody knew he existed. "Mr. Mitchell." A woman's voice. Professional, military cadence. "I'm Captain Rebecca Stone, U.S. Army Military Police. I need to speak with you about a K-9 incident." Max tensed, ready to bolt. John grabbed his collar. "Closet. Now, don't make a sound." Oh, Max seemed to understand. He limped to the back room, and John shut the door. John opened the front door 6 inches. "Can I help you?" Captain Stone was late 30s, sharp-eyed, wearing civilian clothes, but standing like military. "I'm looking for a German Shepherd, military K-9 unit. He attacked a superior officer 3 days ago and fled the base. Considered extremely dangerous." "Haven't seen any dogs out here." John's eye twitched. Old tell, Sarah used to call him on it during poker. Stone noticed. Her gaze swept past him into the cabin. "Mr. Mitchell, you seem nervous. Everything all right? Don't get many visitors." "I see you're a veteran." She nodded at his discharge papers on the wall. "What unit?" 47th Infantry, long time ago." Stone's expression shifted. Something personal flickered in her eyes. "My father served in the 47th. Lieutenant Marcus Stone. Died in an IED attack, 2000. John's chest tightened. Marcus Stone? He remembered. Good man. Left behind a daughter, 10 years old at the time. "I'm sorry for your loss." "The dog we're looking for attacked Lieutenant Colonel Harrison without provocation. Destroy on-site order. $5,000 reward for information leading to his capture." She handed John a card. "If you see anything at all, call me directly." "Will do." Stone paused at her vehicle. "Mr. Mitchell, we take care of our veterans. If you need anything, reach out. Not many of the 47th left." "Not many at all," John agreed quietly. He watched her drive away, then let Max out of the closet. "She seemed decent," John said, "but her orders are to kill you." The question hammered at him. Trust the military he'd given them 25 years. They'd given him PSD and a monthly check that didn't cover his pills. Trust Max. A dog he'd known less than a day. Trust the USB could be a trap, could be anything. But Max had walked God knows how far with a bullet wound to deliver that message. Actions speak louder than words. His father always said. John looked at the weather report, at the USB, at Max's amber eyes. "All right, soldier, we're going to town. Figure out what's on this drive." He started packing. His last $73, 6 bullets for the shotgun, the photo of Sarah and David he kept by his bed. A note he left on the table, "If I don't return, I tried." The truck was a 1985 Ford, primer gray, ran on prayer and stubbornness. John coaxed it to life, settled Max under a tarp in the truck bed. "Stay quiet. Stay hidden. We're going to find out what my son wanted me to know." The truck rolled onto the forest road as the first snowflakes began to fall. Behind them, Captain Stone sat in her vehicle, speaking into a radio. "Colonel Hayes, Mitchell's got the dog. I'm certain of it." The voice that answered was cold. "Good work, Captain. Psst. Maintain surveillance. And Rebecca Mitchell doesn't leave those mountains alive." The truck died twice in the first 20 miles. Each time, John coaxed the engine back to life with curses and desperation. Snow fell harder now, coating the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Max stayed hidden under the tarp, quiet as death. John's chest pain started around mile 30, a squeeze behind his sternum that promised something bad. He fumbled for his pill bottle, 2 left. He dry-swallowed one, gripping the steering wheel until the pain faded to a dull ache. The radio crackled with news. Military convoy conducting exercises in northwestern Montana. Residents advised to stay clear of marked areas. Exercises on Christmas Day. Right. Max whined from the truck bed, sensing danger the way animals do. "I know, boy. We keep moving." Whitefish appeared through the snow like a ghost town. Population 400. The kind of place where everyone knew your business and half of them were related. John hadn't been here in 11 months. People stared as his truck crawled down Main Street. Christmas afternoon meant everything was closed, except Betty's Diner, the only place that never shut its doors. The neon sign buzzed in the gray light, open 24/7. Best coffee in Montana. John parked around back. "Stay here. Stay quiet," he told Max. The dog's amber eyes tracked him as he walked away. The diner smelled like coffee and pie. 3 people inside. Betty herself, 70 years old and tough as nails. Looked up from behind the counter. "Lord have mercy. John Mitchell. Thought you died up in those mountains. Still kicking. Betty." Looking more like limping. Her eyes took in his gaunt frame, the tremor in his hands. "Sit. I'll get you something that isn't out of a can." The other customer was a man in his 60s, silver beard, wearing a faded army jacket. He looked up from a laptop at a corner booth. "Thomas Parker." The man introduced himself. "Saw your truck? 85 Ford with the busted taillight. You must be desperate to drive that thing in this weather." "How'd you know it's mine? Only 3 Vietnam-era Fords left in the county. I keep track." Parker gestured to the seat across from him. "Army Tech Sergeant, retired, run a computer repair shop out of my garage. What brings you to town on Christmas?" John sized him up. Veteran, tech expert, alone on Christmas, working in a diner, either divorced or widowed. The wedding ring tan line suggested recent loss. Need help with an encrypted file. Parker's eyes sharpened. "What kind of encrypted?" "The kind that doesn't want to be open." "Military grade," John nodded. Parker closed his laptop. "Show me." Betty brought coffee and a plate of meatloaf that made John's stomach growl. On the house, Merry Christmas. John, whatever's got you out of hiding must be important." The kindness made John's throat tight. He'd forgotten what it felt like. "Thank you." In Parker's truck parked behind the diner, away from windows, John plugged the USB into Parker's equipment. Professional setup, multiple monitors, hardware John didn't recognize. "This is going to take a while," Parker said, typing rapidly. 3, maybe 4 hours. "You look like hell. John, when's the last time you ate a real meal?" "Can't remember. Go back inside. Eat. I'll work." John hesitated. Max was still in his truck. "I've got a dog," he said carefully. "Injured. In my truck bed." Parker didn't look up from his screen. "Injured? How? Gunshot wound?" Now Parker looked. "That the K-9 they're hunting on the news, the one that supposedly attacked an officer. News is calling him a killer. I'm calling him a survivor. There's a difference. Always is." John met his eyes. "You going to turn us in?" Parker studied him for a long moment. "My wife died 6 months ago. Cancer. Toward the end, she made me promise something. Said the world needs more people who help and fewer who look away." He turned back to his computer. "Bring your dog inside. Betty's got a soft spot for strays, human and otherwise." Max limped into the diner's back room, wary but trusting John's lead. Betty took one look and disappeared into the kitchen, returned with ground beef and a bowl of water. "Poor baby." She knelt slowly, arthritic knees popping. Max sniffed her hand, then licked it. "He's no killer. Look at those eyes." "They're hunting him," John said quietly. "Then they'll have to go through me." Betty scratched Max's ears. "This is Montana. We don't hand over family to people who mean them harm." The decryption took 4 hours. John paced, drank too much coffee. His heart medication was wearing off, and he could feel it, that squeeze in his chest getting tighter. Parker finally called him over. "Got it, John. Before you look at this, you should know something. Whatever's on here, it's bad. The encryption level, the way it's packaged. This is whistleblower material. Someone risked everything to get this information out. Just show me." The screen filled with file folders, videos, documents, Jeep coordinates. 3 video files, dated over 6 months. Parker clicked the first one. The screen showed a concrete room, harsh lighting, a metal chair. And sitting in that chair, thin and bruised, but unmistakably alive, was David Mitchell. John's knees gave out. Parker caught him, eased him into a chair. "Dad," David's voice, hoarse but real, "if you're watching this, Max found you. Good boy. Max." John couldn't breathe, couldn't think. David was dead. The army said so. The flag said so. The empty grave said so. "I don't have much time." David continued on screen. "They think I'm using the bathroom. Dad, everything they told you was a lie. I'm not dead. I'm being held prisoner by Colonel James Hayes." James Hayes, John's former commander, the man who taught him everything, who saved his life in Kandahar, who'd sent him a handwritten letter after David's death. "I discovered something I wasn't supposed to," David said. "Arms trafficking. Hayes has been selling weapons on the black market for years. $50 million. Dad, $50 million stolen from our own military, sold to whoever pays." On screen, David's voice cracked. "I tried to report it through proper channels. That's when Hayes staged my death. Had me declared KIA. Put me in this cell. Said he'd do the same to you and Mom if I talked. Tears ran down David's face on the video. I'm at the old FOB Delta. The coordinates are in the files. I trained Max to find you if anything happened to me. He's the only one I could trust. David leaned closer to the camera. I'm sorry I didn't listen to you about questioning orders. You always said a good soldier knows when to disobey. I should have disobeyed sooner. The video showed David breaking down. I love you. Dad, tell Mom I love her too. If you're seeing this, it means I'm probably dead for real. But at least the truth dies with me. Please, don't let Hayes win. Don't let him keep doing this to other families. The screen went black. John made a sound like an animal caught in a trap. Grief and rage and hope colliding. His son was alive, had been alive for 2 years, while John drank himself numb, while John contemplated the eating a bullet. There's more, Parker said gently. Another video. I can't watch more. John, you have to. Parker clicked the second file. Sarah Mitchell appeared on screen, not dead, alive, unconscious, in a hospital bed, hooked to machines. Colonel Hayes's voice came over the footage. Hello, John. If you're watching this, congratulations. You found the first video. Here's your prize. The camera panned to show Hayes himself, silver-haired, distinguished, the mentor who'd shaped John's entire military career. Your wife didn't die of cancer, Hayes said conversationally. We poisoned her, slowly, mixed it into her chemotherapy drugs. Brilliant, really. Who questions cancer treatment? John's hands became fists. His vision tunneled. Sarah discovered financial irregularities. She was always too smart for her own good, working in military accounting. Started asking questions. We couldn't have that. Hayes stepped closer to Sarah's bed, touched her hair almost affectionately. She's alive, for now, in a medically induced coma at Black Site Falcon. We've been very careful. Even showed her falsified evidence that you abandoned her, told her you ran off with another woman, broke her heart before we put her under. The monster on screen smiled. Both your wife and your son will die when I give the order, unless you do exactly what I say. Destroy that USB. Forget everything you saw. Go back to your cabin and drink yourself to death quietly. Hayes leaned into the camera. You have 72 hours before I clean up this mess permanently. After that, David and Sarah become loose ends. And I hate loose ends. The video ended. John stood up, walked outside into the snow, bent over, and vomited into a trash can. Parker followed, said nothing, just stood nearby. He killed my unit, too, John said when he could speak. The IED attack. That wasn't Taliban. That was Hayes. You know that for certain. I know Hayes. He sacrifices pawns to protect his king. My unit got too close to his operation, so he called in wrong coordinates. Sent us straight into an ambush. Duh. John straightened. Everyone I thought I lost. That's everyone. It's all Hayes. Betty appeared in the doorway. John, there's a third video. This one was recent, 1 week old. David looked worse, more bruised, desperate. Dad, they know Max escaped. They've issued kill orders for both of you. You've got 72 hours. I know you're broken. I know you blame yourself for everything, but I need you one last time. Please. David held up a piece of paper with coordinates. I'm here, Mom's at this second location. The UB has all the evidence, financial records, arms deals, everything to put Hayes away forever. His son's eyes, so much like John's own, stared through the screen. I don't know if you can forgive yourself for being alive, but Dad, I need you to try. Not for you, for us, for everyone Hayes will hurt if he's not stopped, the video cut off. Parker pulled up the document files, financial records, proof of $50 million in illegal arms sales, 12 officers involved, 3 politicians, a network of corruption spanning a decade. These coordinates, Parker said, marking them on a map. FOB Delta is 200 miles north. Black Site Falcon is 350 miles east. John, you can't reach both. The storm. Exactly. Storm hits in 14 hours. After that, nothing moves for days. By the time roads clear, Hayes will have moved them or worse. John stared at the map. Impossible choice. Save his son or save his wife. Not enough time. Not enough resources. Not enough of him left to be a hero. Max whined from across the room, limped over, put his head on John's lap. Parker said quietly, "There's something else you should see. Max's training records." He pulled up a file, Max's military profile, K-9 intelligence specialist, trained to carry classified data, IQ testing scored equivalent to a 7-year-old child. Could understand complex commands. He's not just a dog, John. He's been trained for exactly this kind of mission. A crash from outside. The diner's police scanner crackled to life. All units be advised. Colonel Hayes requesting assistance locating veteran John Mitchell and stolen military K-9. Subject considered armed and dangerous. Hayes's voice came through next. Captain Stone, close in on Whitefish. Mitchell has the drive. Terminate with prejudice. That's an order. Stone's voice hesitant. Sir, Mitchell is a decorated veteran. Shouldn't we follow proper protocol? Did I stutter, Captain? A pause. Then, yes, sir. Parker shut off the scanner. They're coming. Betty appeared from the kitchen. There's a root cellar. Get down there, now. They hid in the darkness beneath the diner as boots thundered above. Through the floorboards, voices filtered down. Anyone seen John Mitchell? A soldier's voice. Haven't seen John in near a year. Betty lied smoothly. Man's a hermit. We have reports his truck was spotted here. Lots of old trucks in Montana. Son, want some pie while you're here? More boots than Hayes's voice, cultured and cold. Mrs. Betty, if Mitchell comes through, call this number immediately. $50,000 reward. That's mighty generous. He's dangerous, delusional, We're trying to help him before he hurts himself or others. After they left, Betty opened the cellar door. That man's eyes. I've seen sharks with more warmth. Parker looked at John. We need to move. They'll be watching the main roads. I know the old logging trails, John said. But I have to choose David or Sarah. I can't save both. Max barked once, sharp, commanding. Then Max did something that made them all freeze. He walked to Parker's laptop, nosed the touchpad until the GPS coordinates appeared. Then he pawed specifically at one location, David's location. He's telling you, Parker said with wonder. He's saying go to David first. But Sarah... John, Parker gripped his shoulder. I'll go get Sarah. I've got a 4x4. Captain Stone doesn't know me. I can bluff my way into that facility. You'd do that, risk everything. My wife's last words were, help people. This counts. Parker grabbed his keys. You get David. I get Sarah. We meet at the old ranger station at Broken Creek, 40 miles east of here. Split the mission. Split Hayes's attention. Betty pushed a bag into John's hands. Food, medical supplies. Get our boys home. John Mitchell. John's chest tightened. Not the pain this time. Something else. Something he'd forgotten how to feel. Hope. They split up in the parking lot. Parker headed east. John and Max headed north. Storm clouds gathered like armies preparing for war. As John's truck rolled onto the back roads, he looked at Max in the passenger seat. Your handler, David. He taught you to find me? Max's tail wagged. Smart boy. Brave boy. John's voice broke. Let's go get him. Let's bring our boy home. The snow fell harder. The radio reported military convoys mobilizing. Time was running out. But for the first time in 3 years, John Mitchell had a mission. And missions he still knew how to complete. The back roads turned into no roads fast. John navigated by memory and instinct. The truck crawling through deepening snow. 40 miles to Broken Creek Ranger Station. 40 miles that felt like 400. Max sat rigid in the passenger seat, ears swiveling at every sound. Combat alert. John recognized it. They were both soldiers again, driving into a mission they might not survive. Captain Stone's father, John said aloud. Working through it, Marcus Stone died in that IED attack, the one Hayes orchestrated. Max's ears flicked toward him. What if Stone doesn't know? What if she thinks her father died a hero's death, never knowing Hayes murdered him? John's hands tightened on the wheel. She deserves to know the truth. The police scanner crackled. Stone's voice. All units. Mitchell heading north on Route 47. Intercept and contain. But then, static, a different frequency. Stone's voice again quieter. Unit 12 to dispatch. Taking alternate route to check Broken Creek Ranger Station. Solo patrol. John's gut told him something. Stone was separating from her unit. Deliberately. She's giving us a chance, he muttered, or setting a trap. 20 miles out, John made the call. Turned toward Broken Creek instead of continuing north. If Stone wanted to kill him, she'd had chances. But if she wanted answers, he had them. The ranger station appeared through the snow, dark and abandoned. John parked 50 yards out, studied the building through binoculars. Stone's military vehicle sat out front, empty. Could be an ambush. John checked his shotgun. 4 shells left. He'd given 2 to Parker, but we're out of options. He left Max in the truck with the engine running. Hey, if shooting starts, you drive away. Paw on the gear shift, just like search and rescue training. Get to David. Max whined. Didn't want to leave. That's an order. Soldier. John approached the ranger station with his hands visible. Shotgun slung on his back. Called out, Captain Stone? I'm unarmed. I'm coming in. The door opened. Stone stood there, weapon drawn but pointed down. Her face was hard, professional, but something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty. Give me one reason I shouldn't arrest you right now. Because I knew your father, and I know how he really died. Stone's gun came up. Don't you dare use my father against me. Lieutenant Marcus Stone, 47th Infantry, KI March 15th, 2012 IED explosion outside Kandahar. John stepped closer. I was there. Rebecca. I held his hand while he died. His last words were, "Tell my daughter I love her. Tell her to be better than me." And Stone's gun wavered. How do you know that was never in the official report? Because official reports are written by people like Colonel Hayes. John slowly reached for the USB drive in his pocket. Your father didn't die in a Taliban attack. He was murdered by our own command. And I can prove it. You're insane. Then shoot me. But if there's even a chance I'm telling the truth, don't you owe it to your father to listen? Stone's weapon lowered an inch, then another. Show me! Inside the ranger station, John plugged the USB into Stone's laptop, pulled up the audio file he'd found buried in the documents. Hayes' voice, recorded accidentally during a radio transmission 12 years ago. Stone's unit is getting too close to the weapons depot. I'm adjusting the convoy route coordinates. They'll hit the IED zone at 1400 hours. Unavoidable casualties. Another voice. Sir, that's our own men. Hayes. Cold. Acceptable losses. The operation must be protected. Stone's face went white. She replayed it again. Her hand started shaking. No. My father died fighting for his country. Your father died because Hayes valued $50 million more than American lives. John pulled up the financial records. Here's every transaction, every weapon sale, every politician bought. Your father discovered the depot discrepancies. So Hayes killed him and 17 other soldiers to cover it up. Stone sat down hard. I've served under Hayes for 5 years. He's been mentoring me, told me I reminded him of my father. Her voice broke. He shook my hand at my father's funeral. He's good at playing human, but there's nothing human left in him. Stone looked up, tears on her face but fury in her eyes. What do you need from me? The truth. Help me expose him. Help me save my family. I do this. I'm finished. Court-martialed. Imprisoned. Everything I've built gone. John knelt to her level. Your father taught you to be better than him. This is how. Not by following orders. By doing what's right. Max barked outside. Warning. Through the window, headlights approached. Multiple vehicles. Hayes's convoy had found them. Time to choose. Captain, John said, your career or your conscience? Stone stood, holstered her weapon, extended her hand to John. My father would have chosen conscience. So do I. They ran for the vehicles as the convoy surrounded them. 8 military trucks, 40 soldiers. Hayes himself stepped out of the lead vehicle, impeccable in his dress uniform, despite the storm. Captain Stone, step away from the fugitive. As Stone planted herself between John and Hayes, Colonel, I need to speak with you about some discrepancies in the 2013 Kandahar incident. Hayes's expression didn't change. We'll discuss that later. Arrest Mitchell. Sir, I have evidence that you intentionally sent my father into an ambush. Now, Hayes's mask slipped. Just for a moment. Captain, you're overwrought. Stand down before I add insubordination to your record. I'm not standing down. Stone's voice rang clear. Not until you answer for what you've done. The soldiers looked at each other, uncertain, their captain defying their colonel. Something was very wrong. Hayes pulled his sidearm. Rebecca. I'm giving you one last chance. And I'm giving you one. Stone held up her phone. I've already uploaded the USB files to FBI servers, cloud backup, email to 3 news agencies. You shoot me, shoot Mitchell, it doesn't matter. The truth is already out there. Hayes's face twisted. You stupid girl, you've destroyed yourself for nothing. No, no, sir. I've honored my father, something you could never understand. Sirens wailed in the distance. FBI coming fast on Stone's tip. Hayes lowered his weapon, smiled cold. Enjoy your victory. Meanwhile, David Mitchell dies at FOB Delta. Sarah Mitchell dies at Black Site Falcon. I've already given the orders. They're being moved as we speak, to locations you'll never find. John lunged forward. Soldiers grabbed him. Hayes leaned close. You lose, John. Even when you win, you lose. That's the lesson you never learned. The FBI vehicles arrived. Special Agent Maria Hernandez stepped out. 20 agents behind her. Colonel James Hayes, you're under arrest for treason, arms trafficking, and murder. Hayes went quietly, still smiling. Check the clock. John, your family has 30 minutes. Maybe. Think you can find them in time after they took Hayes away. Stone grabbed John's arm. I know where Black Site Falcon is. Real location, not the one Hayes gave you. I have access codes. How far? 300 miles. With this storm, 5 hours minimum. John's heart sank. 30 minutes. Sarah would be dead before they got close. I'll take Thomas Parker, Stone said. Military vehicle, credentials. We can bluff our way in. David's 200 miles north at FOB Delta. If I leave now, I might make it. They were splitting up. 2 impossible missions. No backup, no guarantees. Parker's voice came over Stone's radio. Rebecca, this is Thomas. I'm 40 miles from Black Site Falcon. I'll create a diversion. Buy you time. Tom, you're a civilian. Stand down. My wife told me to help people. I'm helping. Parker's transmission cut out. John gripped Stone's shoulder. Bring Sarah home. You bring David home. They ran to separate vehicles. The storm hit full force. Visibility dropping to nothing. John and Max drove north into white chaos. 100 miles in, John's chest seized, not the warning squeeze. The real thing, heart attack. His vision grayed. The truck veered off the road, slammed into a snowbank. Max barked, frantic, licked John's face. John fumbled for his pills. Empty bottle. He'd taken the last one hours ago. No? John gasped for air. Not now. David needs me. He forced himself to breathe. 4 counts in, 4 counts out. Combat breathing, mind over body. The pain was an enemy. You didn't negotiate with enemies. The attack passed, barely. John was running on borrowed time and stubbornness. He restarted the truck. Kept driving. Stone's voice on the radio. John, we're at Black Site Falcon. Heavy resistance. Parker created a diversion, but he's been hit. Gunshot to the gut. It's bad. Is he alive? Gunfire in the background. For now. We're pinned down. Get Sarah out. Parker didn't come all this way for nothing. Copy that. John drove faster. Reckless. The truck fish-tailed on ice, but he corrected. Max braced against the dashboard, trusting John completely. FB Delta appeared like a ghost. 3 buildings, decades old, slowly being reclaimed by wilderness. Military vehicles parked outside. Hayes's men guarding David. 8 hostiles that I can see, John muttered. 1 old man, 1 injured dog, 4 shells. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Max growled. Ready to fight. John circled wide. Came at the facility from the east, using the storm as cover. Left Max at the perimeter. Diversion on my signal. Lead them away from the main building, like you did with the guards when you found me. Max understood, soldier to soldier. John entered through a window. Combat infiltration? Muscle memory from 25 years ago? The building was freezing inside. Abandoned except for the basement. Metal door, locked. John picked it with a bullet casing. Old trick that shouldn't work but did. Stairs down into darkness. 3 cells. David was in the 3rd one. His son, alive up. Real, 20 pounds lighter, bruised, bearded, aged beyond his years, but alive. David looked up, didn't believe what he was seeing. Dad, is this real? I'm here. Son, I'm getting you out. John worked the cell lock. His hand shook so badly it took 3 tries. The elevator dinged, doors opened, Colonel Hayes stepped out, 4 guards with him, all armed. Hayes shouldn't be here. He'd been arrested, but money bought a lot of freedom, even for traitors. Or maybe this was before the arrest, recorded earlier. Time was a blur. Hello, John. John shielded David with his body, drew his shotgun. 4 shells, 5 targets. You taught me loyalty, John said. You taught me honor. You taught me duty. And you learned nothing. Hayes aimed his weapon at David. Give me the USB. Last copy. I know Stone uploaded files, but digital can be denied. Explained away, that physical drive is the only unaltered evidence. John pulled the drive from his pocket. This, you want this. Destroy it. I let David live. You're lying. Probably. Hayes smiled. But it's the only chance you have. John looked at his son. David shook his head. Don't do it. I've already made copies, John said. 20 places. Impossible to find them all. Bluffing? You're no tech expert, John. You're a broken old man who should have died in that cabin. Maybe. But I know people who are experts, and they're smarter than you'll ever be. Hayes's finger tightened on the trigger. Last chance. Explosion outside. Max had led guards to the old fuel dump. Fire and chaos. In that moment of distraction, John fired. 2 guards down. Hayes dove for cover. The remaining guards scattered. David grabbed a fallen weapon. Hayes made it to the elevator. John's 3rd shot hit the control panel. Sparks flew. Elevator froze with doors half open. Hayes trapped. John advanced. Put the shotgun to Hayes's head. 1 shell left. Do it, Hayes hissed. Become like me or prove I was right about you. John's finger pressed the trigger. Every fiber of his being wanted to pull it. For Sarah, for David, for Marcus Stone, for his entire unit. David's hand covered his. Dad, don't. He wants you to become him. Max limped down the stairs, bleeding from his shoulder wound, reopened. The dog placed himself between John and Hayes, whined, looked at John with those amber eyes that had seen too much. I'm nothing like you, John said to Hayes, lowered the weapon, because I know when to stop. Hayes laughed. You'll regret that, Mercy. Stone's voice burst over the radio. John, we have Sarah. Repeat, we have Sarah. Then anguish in her voice. But Tom's hit bad. He needs medical immediately. Hayes's backup is incoming to your position. It take 10 minutes. You're about to be surrounded. Parker's voice, weak. John, get David out. Don't worry about me. I did good, right? I helped. You did more than good, brother, John said, his voice breaking. You're a hero. Tell Betty, tell her I love her, tell her coffee really was the best. The radio went silent, except for Stone's quiet crying. John looked around. No escape routes. FOB Delta was about to become a kill box. Hayes's reinforcements would arrive before they could evacuate. They were trapped. Parker was dying. Sarah was rescued, but John might never see her again. And the clock just kept ticking down. John dragged David up the stairs. His son could barely walk. Legs weakened from months of captivity. Behind them, Hayes remained handcuffed to the broken elevator, screaming threats that echoed through the empty facility. Outside, the blizzard had reached its peak. -40 degrees with wind chill. Visibility was 0. John's truck sat where he'd left it, already half buried in snow. "We need to move," John said, but his chest tightened again. Another warning. His heart wouldn't last much longer. Max limped beside them, leaving a blood trail. The diversion had reopened his wounds. He needed surgery. Soon they reached the truck. Engine wouldn't turn over, battery dead from the cold. No. John tried again. Nothing, just clicking. Hayes's backup vehicles would arrive in minutes. They were stranded in sub-zero temperatures with no shelter, no heat, no escape. Stone's voice crackled on the radio, barely audible through static. "John, Parker's fading. He's asking for you." John grabbed the radio. "Tom, stay with me, brother." Parker's voice came through, wet and labored. "John, I need to tell Betty something. Tell her the coffee really was the best I ever had. Tell her I loved her biscuits, too. Tell her I'm sorry I'm missing Sunday breakfast. You tell her yourself. Tom, you hold on." "Can't." "It's okay, though. My wife. She's waiting for me. I can almost see her." A pause, ragged breathing. "Did I help? John? Did I do good?" Tears froze on John's face. "You saved my family. Tom, you're a hero." "Good. That's good. Tell my grandkids their pop went out, doing something that mattered." More labored breathing, then silence. Stone's voice, broken. "He's gone. John, Tom's gone." John dropped the radio, fell to his knees in the snow. "No, not Tom. He had grandkids. He had Betty. He was helping me." David reached for him. "Dad, we have to move. Everyone I touch dies. David, your entire unit in Afghanistan, your mother you almost. Now, Tom." John's voice cracked. "I should have died in that IED. Should have been me." "Dad, don't. You'd be safer if I had died. Sarah would be healthy. Tom would be eating Betty's biscuits on Sunday. Everyone would be better off." Hayes's voice came from somewhere behind them. He'd somehow freed himself, was making his way through the building. "See, John? This is what happens when you fight the system. Parker died for nothing. You'll freeze to death out here. David will too. Sarah will go back into that coma, and eventually we'll pull the plug. All because you couldn't let it go." John aimed his shotgun toward the building. One shell left. But Hayes was right. What did it matter? You should have stayed in your cabin and drunk yourself to death like you planned. Hayes called out, "At least then Parker would still be alive." David grabbed John's face, forced eye contact. "Dad, look at me. You taught me something when I was 10 years old. Remember, I wanted to quit Little League because we were losing every game." John's eyes were unfocused, lost. "You said, we don't get to choose when we fight. We choose who we fight for. Do you remember?" "David, I can't. I'm choosing to fight for you, for Mom, for Max, for Parker's memory." David's voice strengthened despite his weakened state. "Are you with me, or are you giving up?" John looked at his son, 28 years old, but with eyes aged by suffering, eyes that still held hope somehow. "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher, even if he couldn't see it himself." Yet Max suddenly went rigid, ears forward, a low growl building in his chest. John heard it too. Helicopter. Hayes's reinforcements. Flying despite the storm. Stone's voice. "John, incoming helicopter. 15 soldiers. They're landing at FOB Delta in 2 minutes. You're about to be surrounded. No escape, no vehicle, no shelter. Cornered." David picked up a weapon from one of the downed guards. "Then we make our stand." Hayes laughed from inside. "You'll all die here, and I'll walk free. Money buys freedom, John, even for traitors." The helicopter searchlight swept through the storm, landing on the far side of the facility. John had 4 shells total, used 3 already. 1 remained against 15 soldiers. "Rebecca," John said into the radio, "get Sarah away from here. That's an order." "I'm not leaving you." "Then I'm begging. Save my wife. Let her know I love her." A Stone's voice broke. "Yes, sir." The sound of her vehicle departing cut through the storm. Max moved to the door, looked back at John with those amber eyes. John's heart sank. He knew that look. "No, boy. Stay here," Max barked. The command bark of a military dog, a bark that said, "Orders received." David understood first. Dad. He's K9 intelligence. He understands what's happening. "Max, I won't let you." John's voice cracked, but Max pawed the door. Insistent, he would create a diversion, lead the soldiers away, give John and David a chance to escape in the confusion. It was suicide. Max was already wounded, bleeding, weakened. John knelt in front of the dog, put his forehead against Max's. "You walked 300 miles to find me. Took a bullet for my son. I can't let you die for us too." Max licked John's face once, gentle, then sat at attention. The military posture that meant mission accepted. "You're the best boy," John whispered, tears flowing. "The very best boy." He opened the door. Max looked back one last time. The bond between them was wordless but absolute. Soldier to soldier, brother to brother. Then Max ran into the blizzard, toward the helicopter, toward the soldiers, toward certain death. John heard barking, shouting, gunfire. He grabbed David. "Move! Now!" They stumbled into the storm, using Max's sacrifice to escape. Behind them, the facility erupted in chaos, and somewhere in the white darkness, a German shepherd led 15 armed soldiers away from the only family he'd ever known. John and David stumbled through the blizzard, Max's barking growing fainter behind them. John's chest felt like it was being crushed in a vise. Another heart attack building. He wouldn't make it much farther. Then he heard something impossible over the wind. Engines, multiple engines, not military. Different sounds, trucks, ATVs, snowmobiles. Through the white chaos, headlights appeared, dozens of them, coming from the south, not from Hayes's direction. Betty's diner truck led the convoy, her ancient Ford pushing through snow like a tank. Behind her, 40 vehicles strong, came Whitefish, Montana, pickup trucks with rifle racks, fire engines, police cruisers, ATVs, snowmobiles, an army of civilians bearing down on FO Delta. John grabbed his radio. "Rebecca, are you seeing this?" Stone's voice, confused. "John, those aren't military vehicles." Betty's voice came through the CB radio. "Heard about our boy Tom dying to protect a veteran. Whole town's been listening on the police scanner. We don't let our own fight alone. John Mitchell, this is Montana. We take care of our veterans." The convoy surrounded FOB Delta. Civilians poured out, armed, organized, veterans, firefighters, police officers, ranchers, even the mayor. 47 people total, one for each member of John's lost unit. Sheriff Tom Hawthorne, 65 and gray-bearded, stepped forward. "Boys, put down your weapons." Hayes's soldiers emerged from their helicopter. Confused, their commander, a young lieutenant, said, "This is a federal military operation. Stand down." "You're in my county, son." Hawthorne's voice carried authority earned over 40 years. "And I've got 50 witnesses with cameras rolling who'll say you fired first. Unless you want another Ruby Ridge situation, you'll back down right now." The civilians raised their phones, recording, streaming live to social media, the whole world watching. The soldiers looked at each other, looked at the armed civilians, looked at the cameras. They lowered their weapons. Then Max appeared from the storm, not running toward death, running a wide circle. He'd led the soldiers away from John and David, then circled back toward the sound of the convoy. Parker's last gift. He'd programmed GPS coordinates into Max's collar before dying. Coordinates for Whitefish, an emergency beacon. Max hadn't been running to sacrifice himself. He'd been running to get help. The dog collapsed in front of John, sides heaving, blood matting his fur. "You brilliant boy," John whispered. "You absolute genius." Another helicopter appeared through the storm, FBI markings. Special Agent Maria Hernandez stepped out with 20 agents. "Colonel James Hayes," she announced, "you're under arrest for treason, arms trafficking, murder, and conspiracy." Hayes was dragged from the facility in handcuffs. As they passed John, Hayes spat. "You self-righteous fool, you've destroyed nothing. I have lawyers. I have money. I'll be free in 6 months." "Maybe," John said quietly, "but you'll never be free from what you've done. That's the difference between us. I learned from you, then I learned to be better than you." Hayes was shoved into the FBI helicopter. John hoped he'd never see that face again. Captain Stone approached, face wet with tears. "Mr. Mitchell, I'm sorry. I almost killed you. I was following orders, like my father did." "Your father would be proud you questioned them. That takes more courage than following." "I've requested immediate discharge." "I can't serve a system that let this happen." John gripped her shoulder. "Then serve a better one. Help me fix it. Veterans, helping veterans. We'll build something Tom would have been proud of. Psst. Stone nodded. Partners, partners. An ambulance pushed through the convoy. The back doors opened, and Stone helped someone out. Sarah, John's wife, moving, awake. She was thin, pale, confused. Saw John and froze. John, you're alive. They told me you'd abandoned me, that you'd run off. I'm here. I'm real. I never left you. John's voice broke. They lied to you. About everything. Sarah reached out with shaking hands, touched his face, his beard, his scars, his tears. You got old. You got beautiful. They embraced. 25 years of marriage flooding back. Sarah sobbed against his chest. I thought I'd lost you. Never. You're stuck with me, for better or worse. David limped forward. Mom. Sarah's head snapped up. David. My baby. They said you were dead. They showed me your death certificate. I'm here, Mom. I'm alive. The three of them held each other in the snow, family reunited, broken but alive. Max whimpered nearby. The town veterinarian, Sarah Chin, knelt beside him. This dog's lost too much blood. Needs surgery immediately. Transfusion to hospital treatment. 5,000 minimum. John's heart sank. I don't have 5,000. I don't have 500. Betty pushed forward. Town's got it. We've been fundraising since the police scanner picked up Tom's last words. GoFundMe went up an hour ago. Save our hero dog. We've raised $12,000. Whole state's pitching in. John stared. Why? Why would you all do this? Because Tom Parker died for you, Betty said simply, and you're trying to honor that. And because that dog walked 300 miles to save a family. That's the kind of loyalty we believe in around here. Dr. Chin started emergency treatment right there in the snow, using the ambulance as shelter. Max's eyes found John's. John knelt beside him. Hold on, soldier. Mission's not over yet. You hear me? Not over? Max's tail twitched once. Around them, the town of Whitefish stood guard, protecting their own, the way small towns do when the world forgets what matters. 6 months later, June sunshine warmed the Montana mountains. The Mitchell property looked different now. The cabin had been expanded, renovated with money from the GoFundMe that never stopped growing. A sign hung over the gate, Mitchell Veterans Sanctuary. John stood on the porch, watching 15 veterans work with 15 rescue dogs in the meadow. Exercise, therapy, healing. David led them through drills. His strength fully returned. Sarah provided counseling in the converted barn, her medical training finally used to help rather than harm. Max dozed in a patch of sunlight, his silver muzzle resting on his paws, fully healed, retired from military service with honors. A civilian medal hung in the house, but Max seemed most proud of the rawhide bone David had given him. The foreclosure notice was gone, burned in a ceremony with the whole town attending. Whitefish had raised enough money to pay off the debt and fund the sanctuary for 3 years. Captain Rebecca Stone, now civilian Rebecca Stone, ran the FBI's new Veterans Crimes Division. She visited monthly, always bringing updates on the case. Hayes was serving life without parole. 12 co-conspirators arrested, $50 million recovered, every penny now funding veteran programs nationwide. Thomas Parker's statue stood in Whitefish Town Square, bronze, larger than life. Friend, veteran, hero, carved beneath his name. Betty's diner had been renamed Parker's Place every Sunday. The Mitchell family ate breakfast there. Betty always set an extra place for Tom. Christmas Eve arrived again 1 year after everything changed. The house was full. John, Sarah, David, his pregnant wife Emma, Rebecca Stone, Sheriff Hawthorne, Betty. Max lay by the fireplace, content and warm. John stood to say grace, for family found, family saved, family grown, for second chances we didn't deserve but received anyway, for Thomas Parker, who gave everything so we could be here, for a dog who walked 300 miles through a blizzard to save us all. Max's tail thumped against the floor. And for home, John continued, looking at the faces around his table. Because home isn't a place. It's the people who show up when the world gives up. Outside, snow began to fall. Inside, there was warmth, love, and the sound of family, the way it should be, the way it would stay. Sometimes we think our story is over, that we've missed our chance to make a difference, to rebuild what's broken, to find purpose again. John Mitchell thought the same thing, living alone in that cabin, believing everyone he loved was gone. But God had other plans. A wounded dog carried a message 300 miles through a blizzard, and everything changed. This story reminds us that it's never too late for redemption, that loyalty still exists in this broken world, that small towns still take care of their own, that family isn't just blood, it's who shows up when nobody else will. Thomas Parker could have stayed home. Betty could have looked the other way. The town could have said it wasn't their problem. But they didn't. They chose to stand up. They chose to help a veteran who'd given everything for his country. Just like Max chose to walk 300 miles to save the family that needed him most, we all have a Max moment coming. A chance to do something that matters, to help someone who's given up hope, to stand when it's easier to walk away. Have you ever had someone show up for you when you thought all was lost? What would you do if you found your own Max at your door?